Yes, coming at you once again. I'm Steph Ronin, coming to you one half of the 404 HEELZ, bringing to you a little bit of, how we say, something that's been rattling in my head ever since I started watching pro wrestling. Shout out to Gorilla Position for the clips of this interview. They're the ones who originally casted the first interview with Bryan Danielson. This took place around All In, the weekend of All In London. So shout out to Gorilla Position. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm taking just 3 clips. I'm going to break down each clip to how it pertains to what's been rattling in my mind about pro wrestling since I started watching pro wrestling. When I started to notice the difference between the different styles of wrestling, and I'm not just talking about technicals or I'm talking about the physicality. So this is going to be a good interview. It's broken down in 3 sections. So, you can see in the thumbnail behind me, my man Danielson, but it's pro wrestling versus sports entertainment. A Bryan Danielson interview breakdown to 3 top subjects that, I have a lot in my head about. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
There's like anything else, there's positives and negatives on both sides, and especially with AEW being a newer company, they don't necessarily have the infrastructure for some of the things, right, that you expect in WWE. So, for example, WWE, you get to the building, you go straight to talent relations, or at least when I was there, things have probably changed a decent amount since I've been there, so I don't know. I don't want to speak to exactly how things work.
Of course.
But you go to talent relations. Talent relations tells you, okay, this is what we've got scheduled for you for the week. This, and this. And then and sometimes when I was there, you wouldn't know what you were doing till late in the day or whatever it is. But it's like, there's this internal structure that we don't necessarily have yet at AEW, in the sense of like, you don't necessarily check in with talent relations when you first get in there and tell you like, you're doing this media interview, this media interview, this media interview, this media interview. We need you to sign these tops cards. We need you to do this, that, and whatever. That kind of stuff isn't necessarily happening. And even the process with like the writers and that sort of thing within WWE, it's just a more structured, formalized format within the WWE versus, at AEW. And so one of the big things that I've loved about AEW is that we're a TV company, essentially. So we just do the TV. And what that's allowed me to do is spend more time at home with my family. I also love the creative freedom and the ability to do some of these things that I wasn't able to do before. So there's just some trade-offs there. And one of the things that I love about being in AEW is it feels like we're doing good by participating in this newer company, creating a second brand, because that's better for everybody, like every single wrestler, whether it's me, the people in AEW, or even the people in WWE who are getting higher salaries because it exists. So.
Okay, so we're gonna stop it right there, and I'm gonna chime in and give you my thoughts based on what he said. So the question was asked to him, what is the difference between WWE and AEW? And Danielson, again, kept it a buck and said the infrastructure. And I think pretty much it was well known that AEW don't really have the best infrastructure because they're a brand new company. They, it's going to take them some time to actually get to that level as on the level of a WWE, where they've been around for almost about 50 years. So they are pretty diverse and well-trained in these areas. So Danielson was saying the infrastructure. So he's saying you first get into the building, you know where you're going to be doing. You go to the dressing room, you meet up with the producers, you meet up with writers, you go over what you need to do, and it's all laid out for you. And it's laid out for you in weeks, and you can tell how the show of WWE product is produced. You can tell that it's structured beautifully. You can tell, whether the product comes out good all the time is a different story, but there's structure there, and there's always good, and it's good to always have structure. Now, on the AEW side, Danielson saying there isn't none. And again, you can kind of see that in the product and how it's been shown. And I'm talking about the production side of the AEW product. You can see the difference in, I wouldn't say low quality because it's very high quality, but you can see it's the lack of sharpness. It's not as sharp. Now you can even see this during some matches that AEW have. The camera angles where they show certain points of the match that goes over into the next move, transitions. That's what word I'm looking for. That transitions into the next part of the match. So let's say they have a power bomb. They might show the hard cam angle. The hard cam angle is the camera placed in the front. It never moves. That's why it's called the hard cam. It's right there in the front. So it's a side view. Not you facing the camera, but you from the side. You about to do a power bomb, and then they'll show a camera. WWE will cut around to the other side of the ring where they're facing this way, since it's from the side of the hard camera, and it shows the power bomb. And sometimes before they even hit, they might show another view. The WWE has been criticized for this because they cut too much. It looks crazy. They cut too much of the scene, so they kind of slowed that down a lot. I noticed that they don't cut as much as they used to when it transitions to move to different cameras when it's happening. AEW don't do a good job of that. A lot of times you can see WWE, they try to keep the cameraman out of the frame of the work, and they do a good job of that. AEW, man, you see the cameraman all the time. It'd be multiple. It's like, I don't understand. Like, I'm pretty sure there's people who used to work for WWE who don't work for WWE production team no more. Hire them dudes on. Even if it's only just to gain the knowledge of how they did things over there. Again, you are the alternative, but you don't want to lose that production side, because the production, you can be the alternative company, but if your production isn't up to par, it's going to show, and it's going to reflect on how many viewers you get. So production is everything, definitely when you're doing TV. Again, the differences, but he said the positives of AEW is the creative freedom they have, which is, again, another positive that shows on TV. A lot of this stuff is very original. You can tell they throwing stuff hoping that it sticks. I have no problem with that. Some stuff falls, some stuff succeeds. It's just what it is. That's normal. WWE does that, but they do it more on a corporate structure level, as well. They got a think machine. They probably have I don't even want to think how many writers they have in one room at one time. Bouncing ideas off and trying to come up with these storylines, So again, I think it's a good thing that, both companies have the differences of what they do. But again, Danielson say AEW is basically a TV company, so that means that I can spend a lot of time with my family, and again, work balance, life, that's always important. No one wants to work at a job where it takes up a lot of their free time in life, because you work to live. Now, you be living to work instead of working to live. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I also want to say storylines are very important in pro wrestling. If we're going to rank storylines or matches, let's do that. Rank storylines and matches. We're going to do that. One is 1A, one is 1B. Okay? The storylines enhance the matches. It gives the matches more meaning. The matches are the payoffs to the storyline. You understand what I'm saying? You need both to work as a tandem to do this thing that we love so much, pro wrestling, properly, or entertaining, But again, there's a different line of entertaining and suspending belief, and it make it look more like an actual contest, or we all know what it is, so we're gonna let go. So it's differences in the two. So, all right, enough said about that. Let's get into the next second clip with my man BD.
There's been so many changes in WWE since you left. Like you mentioned, AEW just being a TV company, WWE is now doing less live events than it did when you were there. Also, it feels like they have a lot more creative freedom because of Triple H being in charge rather than Vince. Is there any part of you that regrets leaving when you did?
Oh, no, not at all.
No?
Yeah. No,
Like, if things had changed but when you were still there, would you have stayed on?
no, I think how I view it is, obviously things have changed for the better there, substantially. And so, but how I view it is, one, I've had an incredible time doing what I'm doing. And there are a lot of people who, and I think I'm one of these people who prefer the style in AEW that's more wrestling focused, that's more, as opposed to the drama focused or whatever it is. But I like the idea that there's an alternative. And one of the things that I've really, when I put thought into what I wanted to do as far as leaving WWE, I never was somebody who disliked WWE. And I've tried not to say anything bad about them because I really enjoyed my time there, and I enjoy the people that I worked with, and the people that are there are still my friends and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I've really wanted is to participate in this thing that makes the wrestling industry better for everybody involved. Mm-hmm. And I think having AEW, even just the fact that AEW exists, is much better for all of us.
100%.
So
100%.
So yeah, and I also I'm preferential to the style. I like the style a little bit more. So
I don't want to.
Okay, so there it is again. It goes back to the style. Something that I don't feel like a lot of pro wrestling fans really honestly pay attention to sometimes. Again, I look at this as an art form. There's a science behind it. It is very underrated as far as how much it needs to go into being a pro wrestler. Improv, athletic ability, stamina. You gotta have charisma. You gotta have all these intangibles to even be on the show on a regular basis. But to make it up to the top and become one of the big names, the household names, a true star, takes a lot. So Danielson talks about the style. He says he is just one of those people. I mean, well, first of all, let's track. They asked him, like, do you regret leaving now that Triple H is in charge? He says no, because he just likes the style of wrestling better in AEW, which is more pro wrestling focused. Again, there's pros and cons to doing that. We all know these things. It's all about what you prefer. I am a wrestling guy. I like the matches is what drew me to wrestling. It's not the outside stuff. The outside stuff came later, but it's in between the ring is what draws me into wrestling. And how well did they execute? Did they tell a good story when they do it? Is it physical? Is it believable? Am I sitting here in my chair and I'm like, man, I know, but that looked like it really fucking hurt. Or it looked like that he really smacked the hell out of him or something. That's what I'm saying. It's the fine line that you never know is what also keeps, me as a wrestling fan. You're like, man, you just don't know. So again, he prefers the style better than WWE. I prefer the style of AEW wrestling better than WWE. Because again, WWE is more, like he said, drama centric. They more care about what goes on outside the ring than what goes inside the ring, what's going on inside the ring. And I'm starting, and credit is due. This is after I've seen Bad Blood. I'm seeing Triple H is really, since the last couple of PLEs, he's really trying to put it back more to wrestling. In between the ropes, the styles, he's really getting it back to that, Hopefully, But again, I still think it's a WWE way of style doing things, So again, I agree with Danielson. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the main event of the evening. The third and final part of this interview that I clipped. It's a little bit longer than the other two, but it's a lot of good stuff. I just want you to really listen and then take. I'm going to give you my feedback afterwards. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
But you talking about style of pro wrestling, the style you kind of like, and the art form of it. I'm really interested in your opinion on this. Bret Hart, always, who I consider one of the best pro wrestlers ever, always speaks about how it's an art form. The guys should go out there and protect each other and make it look like a real fight. And then you have people in AEW, for example, Darby Allin, who will do these outrageous stunts, put his body, dare say his life on the line, sometimes doing these crazy things where he's legitimately getting hurt. And you're someone that likes working really snug, and and you said one of the reasons you wanted to leave WWE was because you wanted to bleed.
Yeah.
So I'm just interested on your opinion on the sort of the art form of pro wrestling and what that means.
Yeah. So I think and everybody has different takes on this. I think hitting people hard in safe places is 100% okay. And but I'm also somebody. So if you were to interview Randy Orton, right? So if you were to interview Mark Henry, right? If you were to interview Mark Henry, and he would say something like, Brian, I've never been kicked harder than when Brian kicks me in the chest, right? He would say that. Wrestling Randy, but Mark kind of embraces that physicality, and and Randy Orton, that's not necessarily his favorite thing.
Yeah.
So when I'm wrestling Randy, I don't do that. When I wrestled with Sheamus, we beat the hell out of each other. When I'm wrestling, let me see, when I wrestled Christian Cage in AEW, it wasn't like that at all, right? You switch, like the ability to switch these things, but also knowing, my mentor William Regal, the way that he does some things is super light, but when he hits you with an uppercut, he hits you with an uppercut, right? But it's just super safe. Yeah. And you don't, you'll like it literally, he says Dave Taylor's uppercuts were better as far as like stronger. Like Dave Taylor could like knock somebody backwards, that sort of thing. But I haven't experienced that from Dave Taylor. But when William Regal does it, I mean, he rocks you, right? But you don't leave the match feeling, it's not like you can't do it the next day, right? So I think that's the thing. One of the things that, and I worry about this across both companies, and is the idea of like joints and all that kind of stuff, because there's more risk, from a joint perspective on all these things. I mean, you look at like when I was in WWE, John Cena tore his pec, I think giving a hip toss, and but there's these more acrobatics, and as people get older, I worry about that. Another thing I worry about, because it happened to my sister-in-law, is I'm not sure, and I hope that it seems with women's wrestling getting more athletic, their necks aren't as naturally strong as ours are. Like you look at the Japanese women, and they do these incredible, insane things. But the Japanese, during their training system, they train their necks a ton. And one of the things that, as the women started doing more of like a physical style, I don't know how many of them are training their necks in a way so that their necks don't get hurt as much, right? And so those are just things that I have across the board in wrestling. And when you look across the board in wrestling, everybody's doing more physical things, and so that's not limited to AEW. I will say this about Darby Allin: one, he's crazy, but two, he there's a magician quality about him, because he trained. I don't want to give away too much. For as dangerous as the stuff looks, he's about as safe as you could be with it, and and he was. And he was trained by Buddy Wayne, right? And Buddy Wayne is from the Pacific Northwest, kind of where I'm from. He's like a worker's worker. Like, bro, like he was like, if you like, he would chop you hard. Yeah. But if you hit him with something too hard, you'd be like, whoa, brother, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So yeah. So I, Darby's a real magician that I've been like.
Okay. I couldn't say it any better myself. He put it out on the platter. He broke it down so eloquently. Just very, very, very nice. So elegant, man. Just breaks it down. So So he used Mark Henry and Randy Orton as an example of what he's trying to say to where you see on TV. He said, you know, you go against Mark Henry, a person like Sheamus, they embrace the physicality, the hard kicks and hard places and whatnot. He embraced that. He said going against with someone like Randy Orton or Christian, you know, Cage, it's not going to be, they do certain things alike. You know, it's like, he's not really down for the physicality, so they won't do it. They won't do their match. And you can tell. And that's the thing I don't like, is you can tell the difference in between the matches. It just, in those type of matches, those light wrestling matches, I cannot get into it. I cannot. It's the physical, hard-hitting, fast-paced, like, it's, you know, but at the same time, it's letting the match breathe. You do got to let the match breathe sometimes. And that's one thing about AEW that I will say, they need to learn how to let the matches breathe. It's cool to have that style of wrestling, but everybody can't do that style of wrestling. Why is it most matches like that? Boom, boom, bow, bow, boom, boom, bow, 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 bow. You know what I'm saying? WWE needs to speed that shit up a little bit more. They drawn, their matches are too damn drawn out. You know what I mean? They focus too much on the drama. If we just get a little bit of both, put them in a pot, wrap it up, we might have a perfect wrestling product. But until then, it's these two bohemians behind me that we keep watching, you know? So I just want to say, Danielson also said, I am a strong believer in getting hit really hard in safe places. Yeah. And I'm a proponent of that too, because I like to see matches like that. You know, they're getting chopped, but it's in a safe place. Doesn't mean it don't hurt. It's going to hurt. Wrestling was never meant to, you know, you want to kill somebody or, you know, I mean, you know, it's always been reckless things in wrestling, you know, like Jesus Christ, you know, well, come on. Whether it's, you know, wrestlers getting hit by cars, you know what I'm saying, out of nowhere, the hit and run angles that they run, or wrestlers getting syringes stuck in their mouth for hardcore matches and stuff. I mean, falling through burning tables, thumbtacks being set on fire, like all types of stuff, you know, everything. You know, this is why, you know, it's just what your preference is. But wrestling is always known to be that over the top type of thing. The difference in the styles makes a difference in how I watch wrestling. Of course, I like the storylines. I like the build up. I like to have an interest in what is it between these two? Why are they wrestling? That's pretty much what it is. What's the issue? Oh, it's a good issue. Oh, they really drive home on that issue. Oh, how they are reenacting out this issue and how they execute the issue. This is what makes it good. This is what makes good pro wrestling vision telling, or television, as you will call it. So, the art form, it is an art form. And, you know, working snug, as the interviewer said to Bryanson, like working snug. Man, you know, there's nothing wrong with working snug. But alone is safe. You're taking care of each other, like Bret Hart was saying. You know, that's why he's regarded as one of the best of all time, because his in-ring style was so crisp, so clean. You know, he was ahead of his time, and it looked like it did some damage, but he was safe. He never injured anybody. He kept everybody safe in the ring there, Bret Hart. That's just one of his, you know, feather in his cap. They always say that. I never injured anybody in my career doing something like this. So, you know, and they always asked me, you know, I heard that you said you wanted to leave WWE because you wanted to bleed. He wanted to bleed. He wanted a sense of realism to this match, that you're not going out there just bouncing around in a bouncy house, because it doesn't matter what ring it is, AEW or WWE's rings, those rings are not soft. 1 inch of a foam pad surrounded by metal and 4x4 woods, nah. Taking a bump, just running the ropes will leave marks on your back if you've never done it before. It's like pinching you know? So again, I don't know. I agree with Danielson. I want to know what you guys think. Comment, like, subscribe to the 404 HEELZ podcast. Just let me know what you think. We can open up the forum about this conversation, and the more you get to know me, the more I'm going to keep saying, again, I love AEW, I love WWE because I love pro wrestling. All right. Let me say that again. I like AEW, I like WWE, but I love pro wrestling. This is what I like. I love pro wrestling. It's something I've been watching since I was like 10. I started watching when I was 10 years old. So, I've been watching ever since then. And I haven't stopped. I stopped one time due to personal reasons. Life, gets in the way. May not be able to watch, because people where I was staying at the time didn't have cable. So I couldn't watch it, and that was it. But yeah, pro wrestling was a big part of my life. It's a big part of your guys' lives. It's a big part of our children's lives. Life. If you are a pro wrestling fan, you have children. Your children pretty much are pro wrestling fans too. You know what I'm saying? Most. But again, just try to open up the forum to pro wrestling or sports entertainment. What style do you guys prefer? Do you cater more to the dramatic outside storyline style of WWE, or do you cater more of just the pro wrestling focused style of AEW? I like both, because you can't have one without the other, but some, see what it is. No tribalism here. Just a real analyst, unbiased, just want to see stuff. I call everything out. If you do something bad from either promotion, we're going to call you out. So that's it I got for you guys. Appreciate your time. Steph Ronin once again. Like, comment, subscribe to the 404 HEELZ podcast. Shout out to my homie Aaron. What it do? Let's get it. All right. Deuces.